Okay, so this is LM Studio and I just asked AI to generate greetings in 10 different languages. This is the answer. And basically, the performance was 77 tokens per second. That's quite decent. That's not bad. That's actually pretty quick, but we can make it even faster. So this is another example where I send the same question, the same request to the same AI model, but this time around, the answer was created with 152 tokens of performance. So that's basically double the performance from the previous session. So this is something that we can do in LM Studio. Now, actually, if you're using LM Studio and you're just using the default settings or the settings that were applied automatically by LM Studio, it is actually quite optimized to the point that sometimes, or I would say a lot of times, LM Studio can be faster than another backend like Ollama, which is kind of true, and from experience, it is actually quite efficient. So that doesn't mean that we cannot make it even faster. So let me show you the techniques or tips and tricks that you can apply in LM Studio to make the inference or the AI model in LM Studio to be significantly faster. So let me just go back to LM Studio. And here, I guess before I'm showing you the techniques, I'm going to start a new chat and I'm going to test the model first. Before later, I'm going to apply a new setting and then compare it with the previous or the finalized version of the model. Okay, so here I'm going to be using Translate Gemma. Okay, I'm going to just reset everything. So here I'm going to reload it again. Right now, I'm just using the default setting of this model. So this is still in the clean state. I haven't applied any new setting or optimization to this AI model. Okay, let me ask something like, who are you? Where is that? Who are you? There you go. Okay, it was 69. Nice, I would say. And what can you do? All right, 72. Okay, 60 to 70 tokens per second is probably the baseline for this model. Now, I'm going to eject it from my system, from my memory. And I guess before I show you the settings, there are a few best practices that I think you might want to take a look. So first, when you're running a local AI model, an open source AI model on your device, it is recommended to choose the one that has parameters and also the level of compressions that your system, your GPU can handle. Let's say, for example, I'm going to run a model. Let's say I want to use a Qwen 3 model. So usually there are many variations. There are many level of compressions that you can download, you can use on your computer. So there is the 4-bit, 6-bit, and also 8 bits of quantization or compression. And usually the bigger number means that it's going to be heavier and therefore it needs more computing power when you're running the model. And I think for most people, you might want to use maybe 4-bit or 6-bit. If you have a slightly higher end hardware, then you can use 8-bit or maybe even the FP16 if you want to. But basically just choose the one that you think is appropriate or something that your system, your computer can handle very well. So that was the tip number one. Secondly, make sure that you have applied the right configuration for the hardware on LM Studio. You can check that by navigating to settings, and then let's open developer, enable developer mode, and then go to hardware. If you have a discrete GPU, make sure that it is enabled, and also if you make sure that the offload KV cache to GPU memory is also enabled. Otherwise, the model can be very, very slow. Okay, so that was basically the checklist, and now we are ready to make the model to be more optimized or even faster. So I'm going to close this, and let me just navigate to my models. And for this example, again, I'm going to be using Translate Gemma. Let me just open the setting for this model. All right, so there are a few settings that we can customize. Let's start with the load section. I'm going to open context and offload. So context here is quite important. So basically it's going to be used as a sort of how long AI can remember something. You don't want to make it to be too low because otherwise it's going to forget everything. But at the same time, you don't want to make it to be too high because it's going to make AI to be very, very slow. So you want to strike the perfect middle ground, the perfect balance based on what you need. And in this case, I guess I'll just use the default setting, which is 4096 tokens for the context length. After that, for the GPU offload, make sure that it is maximum. The number here is going to be different from one system to another, one model to another, but generally speaking, it's a good idea to set it to maximum. Now, after that, you can continue to advance, and you can increase the CPU thread pool size from 6 to 8, but this is, I would say, optional, because sometimes if you're using the 6 thread on the setting, it can be faster when you are chatting with an AI model in this tool. So this is something that you have to try yourself, because different models might behave differently. So sometimes 6 is better, sometimes 8 is better, but in this case, I'll just use 8. Now, let me just continue to inference. Right here, you can include a system prompt. Now, to clarify, this is not going to change or improve the performance of the model, but you can kind of make AI to feel faster by adding system prompt. For example, if the AI model is usually giving you 1000 word answer, then you can tell AI that, hey, I want to get a more concise answer. I want to get the answer in maybe 100 word, which means that you can get the full answer much faster. So for me, I'll just tell AI to be more concise, and that's about it. You can of course use a custom or your own system prompt or based on what you need. Okay, after that, we can continue to speculative decoding, and this is actually the one that will significantly affect the speed of AI inference in LM Studio. So basically, with speculative decoding, we can utilize draft model, which is a model that is much smaller. Like, for example, I'm going to be using Gemma 3 with 1 billion parameter. So the bigger model was 4 billion, but the draft model is only 1 billion parameter. Now, this is going to be different from one model to another, so you have to do your own research. For example, the model for the draft model for Llama and Quen can be different, and the same is true for the Gemma model, etc. So you have to do your own detective work to find what is the draft model that is available for the bigger model that you are trying to use in LM Studio. Anyway, I'm going to click done. And well, we are basically done with all of the settings. So let me just go back to the main screen, and I'm going to start a new chat window again. Let me just load the model. It was Translate Gemma with 4 billion parameters, and now with new setting. Okay, let me ask the same question. Who are you? Okay, just wait for it. It's going to be a bit slower initially, but after that, it's going to be blazing fast. Okay, it was 88. It's almost 90. So it is faster than the 60 or 70 from the previous session or in the original setting. Okay, what can you do? 75. So, not 75. It was 96. Sorry about that. So 75% draft tokens accepted. So that means the Gemma 3 with 1 billion parameters model contributes about 75% of the tokens that was produced in this answer. So that means it is really fast, because a lot of the tokens, or let's say words from the draft, were actually used in the final answer. So that's the benefit of using this feature called speculative decoding in LM Studio. It can make the model significantly faster. Now here, in this example, the difference is honestly not quite significant, because after all, the model is only 4 billion parameters. But if you're using a model with, let's say, 12 billions, 20 billions, 40 billion parameters, then there is a good chance that a draft model can significantly, I'm talking about double or even triple the performance of the model. So that's the benefit of using that feature in LM Studio. But yeah, that's basically all the things that I guess you can do to improve the performance of LM Studio to be even faster than the original setting. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on my next video. Have a great day.